Shalom, my name is Gidon Ariel. I'm coming to you today teaching you about the 9th of Av from Root Source, and the last of the 5 items that Jewish sages assign to this horrific night of Tisha B'Av is from the verse in the biblical book of Micah, Micha, where it says, Tzion Sadeh Techaresh, Zion will be plowed like a field. Today, on the Temple Mount, that same temple that was plowed like a field by King Turnus Rufus some 2,000 years ago, today, a few hundred years ago, this structure was built there. That is the Haram al-Sharif in Arabic. It is the building built over the Even HaShtiyah, the same stone that traditionally the whole world was created from, and where both temples stood exactly. Today, of course, it is a shrine of Muslims. And tragically, many Muslims do not treat this Holy of Holies with the proper respect. Here's a terrorist who's covering his hands, covering his face, so that he cannot be identified when he throws rocks at the Jewish people just on the other side of the Western Wall. Here's a picture of Jews on the night of Tisha B'Av, doing one of the best known traditions of this tragic night. That is reading, as I said before, the book of Lamentations, written by Jeremiah the prophet. Notice that these Jews are sitting on the floor. This is a symbol of mourning. In fact, according to Jewish law, if somebody, God forbid, one of their relatives passes away, let's say one of your parents dies, then you have a week of mourning that you follow. One of the main symbols of that week is not sitting on a regular sized chair, but only sitting low, like someone who is mourning. And that is what is happening over here. Other things that are prohibited on the day of Tisha B'Av, besides sitting on a chair, are eating and drinking, of course. The 9th of Av is a non-biblically mandated fast day. There's only one fast day that is biblically mandated. That would be, of course, Yom Kippur, but there are 4 other fast days throughout the year that we Jews traditionally hold and observe, all of them having to do with the destruction of the temple. The harshest of them is this fast day, the 9th day of the month of Av. There's one more story that I'd like to share with you about the 9th day of the month of Av, and specifically about the destruction of the temple. The story goes that Rabbi Akiva, who is one of the most famous and wisest teachers of the Jews during during the time of the destruction of that second temple, he was walking with his students, and they came upon the destroyed site of the temple, and his students started crying. And Rabbi Akiva started laughing. Now his students said, "Rabbi, why are you laughing? We're seeing our temple destroyed, and you're laughing?" They just could not understand it. Well, Rabbi Akiva said, "That's exactly the reason why I'm laughing. because I know that the temple was destroyed. And I've seen a lot of bad things happening. But I didn't know that it would be able to be destroyed so completely that even foxes would be running around and jumping out of the Holy of Holies, and that the entire Temple Mount would be completely destroyed and even plowed like a regular field. Well, I now realize that these were the prophecies of our prophets. And now I understand that just as these prophecies of destruction and desolation have come true, then I am confident that God will bring all of the wonderful, the absolutely marvelous prophecies that He has promised us, including the rebuilding of Jerusalem, the rebuilding of the temple, and children playing in the streets of Jerusalem, as it says in Zechariah, old men and women sitting in the streets of Jerusalem, holding on to their canes because they are so old, and they are able to live in the city of Jerusalem. Just as I know that the faithful God has carried through on His promises, on His tragic promises to destroy Jerusalem, I know that that faithful God will follow through and rebuild Jerusalem and rebuild our temple. The students of Rabbi Akiva then said, Rabbi Akiva, you have made us feel better. You have comforted us. And this is one of the many phrases from Jewish sages. Kol hamitabel al Yerushalayim zochev ro'eh b'simchata. Whoever mourns over Jerusalem merits to see in her joy, like Rabbi Akiva. But I will just sum up with saying that the verse here, the saying here in Hebrew does not say anybody who mourns over Jerusalem will merit and will see in the joy, in her joy, in the joy of Jerusalem. It says everyone who mourns over Jerusalem merits and sees in her happiness, because God is above time. As we are mourning over Jerusalem, we are already planting the seed for the rebuilding and the reconstruction of Jerusalem. I'll just summarize with a famous story told about Napoleon. Napoleon conquered the land of Israel, and he was visiting in Jerusalem, just happened to be visiting on the 9th day of the month of Av. Passed by a synagogue with his entourage, and he heard the Jews inside the synagogue reading from the book of Lamentations and crying. And Napoleon said to his generals, what is this supposed to be? What is going on over here? And they said, the Jews are mourning over the destruction of their temple. Napoleon was awestruck. What are you talking about? I'm in charge around here. I didn't hear about anything like this. Where did it happen? When did it happen? What's going on? His generals told him it happened about 1800 years ago. Well, if he was awestruck before, now he was even more so. He said, the Jews are mourning over something that happened 1,800 years ago? So I do declare that a nation that continues to mourn over that which they have lost even 1,800 years ago certainly will live to see that will be returned to them. And thank God we are living in a time that all of this mourning and all of this remembrance is paying off. And we're seeing, little by little, the reconstruction of Jerusalem and the temple.